This is semester 1, geometry midterm review, starting with number 13. We notice that A and B are supplementary angles. Supplementary means two angles that add up to 180 degrees. So we're going to try to show our steps here and say that the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle B equals 180. Then we can substitute in our values. Kind of like a proof, we know that the sum is 180 because if supplementary, then a sum of 180. We substitute in our numbers, so if we were doing a proof, that would be substitution property of equality. Then we would have collect like terms, subtraction property of equality, and then if we were doing a proof, this step would be called division property of equality. So 7 goes into 17 two times with 3 left over, so that is 25. So x is 25. You get all excited, you bubble in 25 on your final exam, or on your midterm in this case, and you get the wrong answer because they're asking for find the measure of A. So we need to come over and say that the measurement of A equals 6 times 25, which is 150. And the measurement of angle B equals 25 plus 5. 25 plus 5, which is 30. And together, those add up to 180. Now watch this one. Be careful. XZ is your bisector. Ray XZ bisects WXY. We know that WXZ is 4x plus 15. We know ZXY is 9x minus 20. Notice we're never given a full value, so we can't add things up to equal. This doesn't add up to 180, of course. It's not a straight line. This is less than even 90 looking. So there's nothing else to match that. And this vocab word here, bisects, means it cuts it in half. We know that the measurement of angle WXZ is going to equal the measurement of angle ZXY. So by substituting in our values, we can do the subtraction property of equality. And the addition property of equality. And divide that out. And we find out that x is going to be 7. We get all excited. We bubble in the 7 on the multiple choice test. But they're asking for find the measure of angle WXZ. So 7's not the answer we're looking for. WXZ equals 4 times 7 plus 15. That's 28 plus 15. That's 30. That's 43. 43 degrees. Here we're looking at this straight line that's divided into different parts. We know this side is a right angle, which means 90 degrees. That makes this side a total of 90 degrees. So I know that 2x plus 3x minus 10 equals 90. Collect your like terms together. Add your 10 across, and x equals 20. be sure to answer the question. The measurement of angle ABC equals 2 times 20. And the measurement of angle CBD equals 3 times 20 minus 10. So our 50 and our 40 are going to add up to the needed amount of 90. Perfect. For our next one, we see again we have the straight line. We have two angles that are making up this entire half circle. Okay, they have the same vertex, they're adjacent, they're called a linear pair. They're supplementary because they form a straight line. So 5x minus 22 adds together to be 180. Collect our like terms and our like terms. Do the subtraction property of equality. Divide by your 13. And I don't know how many times it goes in there, but I do know that 13 goes into 15 once with 2 left over, and 13 goes into 26 twice. So that must be x equals 12. Then it wants us to find the value of the angles. The measurement of angle ABC equals 5 times 12 minus 22. That's 60 minus 22. That's 38. The measurement of angle CBD is 8 times 12 plus 46. That's 142. The measure of one angle is 3 times the measure of its complement. All right. Well, before we did supplement, so complement is 2 angles that add up to 90. So if we pretend that we have angle A and we have angle B, we know that they add up to 90. One of those angles is 3 times bigger than the other. So either one angle's 1 and the other angle's 3. It's 3 times bigger, so 1 and 3. Does that add up to 90? 2 and 6. 6 is 3 times bigger than 2. Does that add up to 90? 5 and 15. 20 and 60. Some set of numbers is going to be adding up to 90, and one number is 3 times bigger than the other. Well, if I need to figure out the number, and the other one is 3 times that amount, that gives us 4x. That gives us 22.5. 4 goes into 9 twice, with 1 left over. 4 goes into 10 twice, with 2 left over, and 2 over 4 is 0.5. Find the measure of each angle. So we have the measure of angle A being 22.5 degrees, and the measurement of angle B equaling 3 times that amount. Typically won't put the degree symbol there. So that's going to be 66, 67 and a half. And together we get that to be 90 degrees. On the flip side, we have 2 angles that form a linear pair. Well, this would be a possible picture of a linear pair. Two angles that are adjacent to each other, same vertex and share a side, and that add up to 180. So the measure of one angle is 8 times the measure of the other. So whatever this is, the bigger angle is 8 times that. So we have the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle B. They are a linear pair. They are 180 degrees. X and 8x. That gives me 9x. So x is 20. So one of the angles, let's call it angle A, the measurement of angle B is 8 times the 20. That's 160 degrees. Write the converse of this conditional statement in if-then form. Tell whether the converse is true or false. Provide a counterexample. Well, this says all birds are parrots. So if you're a bird, then you're a parrot. That would be this conditional statement. But we're supposed to write it we're supposed to write the converse. So this one is if an animal or if a bird, then it's a parrot. Just to kind of simplify it as much as possible. If you have a bird, then it's a parrot. But the converse to that, that's what we're actually supposed to write. If a parrot, then a bird. So this is actually true. The converse of this is true, but the original statement would have been false. If you have a bird, does it have to be a parrot? No, it could be a penguin. A penguin's a bird. A blue jay's a bird. An eagle's a bird. So if a bird, then a parrot, that would be false, but that's not what they were asking. They were asking us to write the converse and tell whether the converse is true or false. The converse is true. So no counterexample. Name the property illustrated. Well, here we have two things that are equal to each other. Or congruent, that would be a better term. Segment BC is congruent to segment BC. So that's reflexive property of congruence. This next one has 3 parts. That's your big hint. It has 3 parts. Angle P is congruent to angle R is congruent to angle S, then angle P is congruent to angle S. So that would be transitive property of congruence. Some people like to write POC. I just want to be sure that you understand what POC stands for. Okay, notice substitution would be incorrect for that. You can't substitute with congruent statements. But equal statements, you could use substitution. Substitution property of equality. But it's got that 3-part to it. I would imagine that they're looking for transitive property of equality. But substitution would also work. Substitution property of equality. Both of those options would not be multiple choice, but they might have transitive property of congruence and substitution property of equality, then you would have to pick substitution. All right, here if we know angle 1 is 20 and the two of them add up to 180, then we're bringing in the 20 in place of the 1, so that is substitution. Substitution, property of equality. Here we're looking at our diagram. Notice that the lines go completely through each other. And when they go completely through each other, then we know we have straight lines. But even more important, look where the variables that are the same are. They're across from each other. We call those vertical angles. Side by side, those are linear pairs, but they're different angles. We need the ones that are across from each other. So 3y plus 1 is going to equal 4y minus 12. When we subtract our like terms and add our like terms, we're going to get y that equals 13. And in this situation, the x's are also vertical angles if vertical angles, then congruent angles. If two angles are vertical, then the two angles are congruent. And if congruent, then equals. So we can set them equal to each other. And collect our like terms. Divide, division property of equality. 3 goes into 8 twice with 2 left over. 3 goes into 24 8 times. Find the measure of each angle. So 5 times 28. It's going to be 140. And that's going to be true to its vertical angle. And for y, 3 times 13 plus 1, 39 plus 1. Those are supplementary angles. They add up to 180. So perfect. Those are the answers that they're looking for. Find the measure of each angle in the diagram. We found one of set to be 140 and the other set to be 40. Here, let's take a look at what we have. Notice that we have some lines that are forming X's. When you have X's, then you have vertical angles. So angle 3, the measure of angle 3 is 45. Here, you know if this is 90 and forms a straight line, then up here has to be 90. So angle 5 is the measure of 45. And its vertical angle is also 2. So that's 45. This 50 is vertical with angle 6. So the measure of angle 6 is 60. And 60 and angle 1 are complementary. They form a right angle. So this is 30. So if angle 1 is 30, its vertical angle is 4. And vertical angles are congruent. So you can pretty quickly get all the way through with those. Let's finish up with these last two. Here we have two parallel lines. If lines parallel, then you got to name the angle. Alternate interior angles congruent. That's the theorem that we're using here. So if they're congruent, then we can set them equal to each other. So x is going to be 65 degrees. On this case, this is another type of special name. Alternate interior would have been there. Corresponding would have both been to the upper left of the vertex. These are inside, on the same side of the transversal. So if lines parallel, then corresponding angles are, gotta be careful with this one, supplementary. They're not equal to each other. Only in a rare case are they equal to each other. The lines would have to be perpendicular to the transversal. So they are supplementary. So then we're going to subtract over the 68 and divide by 2. So 2 goes into 11 5 times with 1 left over. We get 56 for the value of x. Good luck, everybody.